everyone. Welcome back to Virtue Signal, the podcast about being moral in amoral times. I am here, Eleanor Russell, with Taylor Meanswell and Andre Callot, theme music by Alex Rancourt. I'm so excited to talk to you all today about the film. That's the thing Richard Pryor used to say. He used to say, the film, because he thought it was stupid. He said, the film. The film, The Drama, starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. So let's all get going. This movie has produced a lot of discourse, but I was not privy to it because I chose to go in blind. I chose to go in without knowing anything, and I encouraged you guys to do the same. I think this movie is like one of those like kind of callback movies from like the 80s and 90s where it's like a sort of a comedy of manners in a sort of 2026 context, and I'm really interested in figuring out what that means. What do you think, Tay-Tay? What do you think, Andre?
I wouldn't say comedy of manners.
No?
No.
It's not a farce because they do change. The point of a farce is that the characters don't change, and that's the joke. But this, they do change.
Does getting humbled count as changing?
Absolutely,
Okay.
100%.
For
yeah.
sure. For sure.
I think the characters do change because over the course of it, and we're going to get right into spoiler territory.
Oh, yeah,
everybody,
please.
There's actually no way to talk about this film without spoilers.
Exactly.
Like in the ways that our podcast is about,
Yeah.
we can't do a
You
spoiler
can't,
free.
yeah.
So
Right. No, we are going to talk about the beginning, the middle, and including the end. I think that at I want to talk first about the very last thing that happens in the film, which is when they meet together in the diner and Robert Pattinson is all beaten to shit.
I loved that scene. I thought it was the sweetest ending. I do. I thought it was very sweet.
Yeah, Zendaya shows up and pretends that they've never met, and they start from scratch.
Yeah.
And that's important because the course of the film, it's sort of about how their entire relationship gets destroyed by the revelation of this secret about her life, which is, and I'll just say at the beginning, that when she was young, she planned but did not execute a mass shooting at her school.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot going on in terms of temporality here where like the moral litmus test that they all ask of each other at the beginning of the movie when they're talking about the worst things they've ever done in their lives is like, does thought matter more? If you have a really fucking awful thought, but you don't go through with it, and then you do something that's less awful, but you actually do it, like, which is worse? And like, obviously, the thing that you actually do is worse, but this film is like, but what if that's not true?
And at the time, I said to you that Robert Pattinson, as Bruce Wayne, would already know this because it's not who you are inside that counts, it's what you do that matters.
So you see that as like a
Bruce.
palimpsestral thing, like the Arpat's Batman is like.
I don't think it's an accident that, like, what kind of person gets cast as Batman.
Well, also, can we just get one thing out of the way? When they're going through at the beginning, he's lying, right? Like he's like, oh,
He makes something up off the top of his head.
because he can't think of anything bad he did because he's a boring guy. So he's like,
Or maybe he knows things that he did that were bad, but he's just not taking the game seriously. We don't know.
I got the sense strongly that he hadn't done anything that bad and couldn't think of it, and so made something up. That was what I got. What do you think, Tay-Tay?
So I don't know what the term is, but the catalyst that sets the plot in motion is that at some not quite rehearsal dinner, but
What they're doing is they're bilking the wine venue. They're there and
they're at a tasting. They're tasting the food and the wine.
But this is
and
not
the
their
things.
first tasting.
They are at a caterer's sort of like, we're going to give you a bunch of free food because you have already chosen us as your vendor for the wedding.
But they're like testing the nerves of the workers there, who they're like, "Oh no, I need to try another Syrah."
Yeah, it's the
or
middle of the
whatever.
night, and
Yeah.
at the end of the night, they decide to drink a bunch extra and then do these like high school would you rather truth or dare games.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson and Zendaya are getting married, and they are at this setting getting wined and dined
Just wined.
with their.
That's the issue, is that they're only getting wined.
Oh, that's right. That becomes relevant at the end of the scene too, doesn't it? They are with their best man and maid of honor, who are also in a relationship. Is this correct?
Yeah, it's Alana Haim and a guy.
I don't think she's the maid of honor because they do say what.
Yes, she is the maid of honor.
But does she serve that function in the ceremony? It's weird that it's a movie about a wedding and we don't see the wedding.
We see the reception.
We see the reception, right.
intimate detail, and at the reception, she fills or is supposed to the role
the
of a
maid of honor function. And what I couldn't handle, and this was like maybe because I'm just not waspy enough, like I was raised without God, but I was just like, there's no way in fucking hell I'm letting someone I know who actively hates me give a speech. Like I would have like cut that short. But I'm also not from Massachusetts, so I don't know.
At the dinner, one of them says, okay, we're going to just as a conversational game, as an exercise, we're all going to say the worst thing that we've ever done. And we'll get into the specifics of that. But by the end of the conversation, the maid of honor, who has arguably done the worst thing than Zendaya's character, really doesn't like Zendaya's character anymore.
Right. She says that she locked a child with disabilities in a closet overnight.
That was the worst thing she'd ever done.
Exactly. She says that. And then she's like, and then they're like, okay, so did you go back for them? And they were like, well, no, they got found. And it's like, okay, but what would have happened if you hadn't? So not only is the thing that she does the worst thing that any of them have ever done, it's that like the thing that she didn't do ended up working out. You know what I mean? Like she never even tried to fix it.
Zendaya stopped herself from doing something terrible, and Alana Haim actually did something terrible.
Yeah. And there's a kind of entitlement to that reminded me very much of like our current political moment, where like the sort of powers that be are doing unconscionable things all the time and just pointing the finger and saying no you at lesser infractions. And to me, that was like the most salient sort of satire of the film, was this sort of dissonance and reckoning and fear and anxiety and shame that Zendaya is experiencing as the sort of victim of this dynamic. Like that was really what made her the star to me, is I was like, oh, she's like, someone is hurting her. Like, this is not okay. This is not fair.
I think that there are dynamics that are racialized, and there are gender dynamics, and then there's class stuff happening. But I think the thing that makes this something like an Eric Romer kind of moral tale is that what we're supposed to pay attention to are the choices the characters make.
Yes.
Rather than the material circumstances that they find themselves in.
Right, because like, let's talk about their apartment.
They're doing fine,
Their
folks.
apartment is stunning. Oh my God, with the staircase, I was plotting.
What
So
city is this film?
They're in Boston. They're in
Boston.
Which is why there was a tweet I
A
saw.
Bostonian telling somebody else they're a bad person.
No, what was funny is there was a tweet I saw that was like, what was so funny is the idea is that there are people in Boston who are just walking down the street looking like Zendaya and Robert Pattinson.
Right. Also asking themselves if they're good people or not.
Right,
Like,
no.
Sorry.
Like, no,
Last time
sorry.
I was in Boston was in, I think, March of 2023.
For SCMS, right?
For Society of Cinema and Media Studies conference, annual conference, and in a long string of really smart choices by the Society of Cinema and Media Studies, they decided to have their annual conference in Boston on the weekend of St. Patrick's Day, and the people of Boston do not cover themselves in glory on the weekend of St. Patrick's Day.
No.
They cover
say that
themselves
as
in
Chicagoans,
green
with all humility.
vomit. That's what they cover themselves in. And, lately SCMS has been, like they had an enormous boycott against their conference because they refused to take the genocide in Gaza seriously. And then there was a parallel conference. So they're making bad choices, but like staying out of Boston is an easy win for anyone.
There's a couple of things that the characters in this movie could have done to avoid pain, and not being in Boston is thing number one.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Yeah. Now, I think the reason that they're in Boston is the same reason that people generally used to set things in Boston, is that it's supposed to be a place where people are wealthy and well-educated, and you can engage with them on the level of ideas.
Yeah, and the idea that, we've already passed the vibes check of the kind of person you want to hang out with, right? As opposed to like being a good person or a bad person. Like the idea of morality is very much just like a social stratification in this kind of culture. We get this from like House of Mirth. We get this from the Bostonians. This is a long-standing Boston convention in fiction.
Well, yeah. The thing about Boston is that it has, what do you call it? Boston Brahmins,
Yeah.
right? Old money. The closest thing America has to something that they can legitimately call old money.
I mean, New York City has this too.
Uh,
It's just Boston's so much smaller and so much more cloistered.
I don't know how much old money stayed in New York because there was a pretty long stretch of the 20th century where it wasn't a super duper cool place for rich people to spend time.
Right. It's like, this is like whenever we watch Meet Me in St. Louis at Christmas time and they're like hemming and hawing. You're like, oh, I can't leave St. Louis for New York City in like 1903. That would be so.
Yeah. No, how would our family ever recover after buying property in New York 100 years ago?
There's no way this is a good choice.
Actually, from 1972 to 1980, the only millionaire in New York City was John Lennon.
That's crazy. And that's because of Yoko, because she was an art freak.
Oh, yeah. No, Yoko has always been good at the money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, 'cause you know what it is? Taste. Excellent taste. Always dressed in black. You know, looks great all the time.
Steve Jobs literally copied her.
Can you do a description of Yoko Ono just like that, but with the Trump's voice?
I love Yoko Ono. She's one of my favorites. I've been a big fan of her ever since she made that film in the 60s where it's just the close-up of everybody's butts as they're walking down the street. I think she's funny. I think she's smart. I like her art. She always looks great. Looks so put together.
Thank you, baby. I appreciate that. So, I think
John said I was a better singer than him.
I think there's a societal.
People shoot at me all the time, and I'm still here. Where's John Lennon?
Huh?
Where is he?
Good Lord.
Oh my God. So there's a social/societal critique. I'm reluctant to say societal because I think the word society is like overused, and I ban my students from using it.
They swoosh.
Swoosh. It's a swoosh situation. And there's also, but it's really anchored, and this sounds so fucking bullshit, but like boring and banal, but like it's anchored by the real reality of its characters. Like I feel like the performances that Arpats and Zendaya give are very real and human, and I cared about them. And what I found from Arpats is that he's doing he cheats on her with that girl. As because he's attempts to because he's like, well, I have to do something bad so that I can be with you again. I think that's he's like, I have to transgress because I haven't done anything bad in my life. So I'm going to do this now. And so then you and I can be on a more equal plane and then our relationship can go forward. So I think it was self-sabotage. That was my impression of what happened there with what's her face. I can't remember.
I think we've seen that in films and in books and things. The idea that it comes out of anxiety of, oh no, this huge life choice. Should I be making this choice?
Yeah.
Right. There are so few choices that people even ever really get to make. And, one of them is, who do you marry? Things like, do you have kids? Do you have, what kind of a career do you have? Things like that. Big life.
People don't really get to make decisions about careers anymore, though.
My moral compass at the moment is pointing me towards giving a succinct summary of the film which we've already done in bits and pieces, but
all right.
in order.
Okay, go for it.
For the uninitiated, Robert Pattinson finds out that his fiancée Zendaya planned a school shooting but didn't follow through with it. He finds out that her being deaf in one ear actually came from her kind of botched preparation for the shooting.
Yeah, shooting a gun in the forest.
Something that she had lied about the origins of prior to in their relationship. And the central tension of the movie is Robert Pattinson's character going to go through with the wedding of theirs that's,
been planned
a week after he finds out that his fiance was a near school shooter. And at one point he's at work and his colleague, look, I'm just going to come out and say it. All right, PC people, plug your ears. Smoking hot. She's a hottie. He breaks down for her. She comforts him, and he.
She did nothing for me. I get that she's hot because I understand signifiers for hotness, but I was just she seems mean. I don't like it.
Well, yeah, and I don't say hot to be it's not my eyes that are turning into hearts. But like you said, for
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
she's coded as
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
the desirable female, right? And in the midst of his agony, he's wandered out of the cave for the
Sturm und
first time and is actually blinded by the light, right? He attempts to initiate sexual contact with this hot-coated subordinate of his.
He rips her shirt off and pushes her up against a desk, and then seconds after his initial impulse, he thinks better of it and runs off.
But she's ready to go.
She assumed the
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
I noticed. That was very clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that woman, that subordinate of his, ends up being a guest at the wedding, which spoilers
Where she's
does
at,
happen.
where she's at with her boyfriend.
The guy who finds out about the attempted tryst or liaison and then
Beats the shit.
beats the shit out of Robert Pattinson.
Which, let's be honest,
Was warranted. I mean, Robert Pattinson, that to me, the scene where he's giving that speech, I was in the movie theater. Every single person in the movie theater was like watching through their fingertips. We were all just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is fucking happening right now. It was actually like a really communal moment.
There's an extent to which this is one of those films where you're rooting for, some sort of a contagious disease to wipe out everyone in the city. Every single person that appears on screen is a giant pile of shit.
I think that what's interesting about it is that I still cared about them a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was like, I agree. Like, I don't care about this fucking head curator at the Cambridge Art Museum. Like, fuck you, dude. You know? I don't care about that person. And he's one of those, he's like such an exemplar of like millennial masculinity where he's just like, oh, I don't know. What do you want to do? Oh, I'm not responsible for my actions, Which I'm like, ugh. But I think that he's so charming and well-meaning that I still sort of cared about him,
All the men in the film are this way, and it's because we go out of our way and we work really hard to make sure that men now are this way.
Oh, yeah, because
If you're not this way, you can't work in an office, you can't go on dates.
No, that's not true. No. What he's exemplifying is a kind of, listen, it's more feminist if I just don't make a decision and make you make the decision. Like he's just like abdicating all responsibility at all times. Until actually the bravest thing he does in the whole movie is attempt to seduce his subordinate, which is crazy because that's like psycho, but like is actually the most initiative he takes in the film.
You don't see his reluctance to engage in risky actions as being like mature and civilized and...
No, because there's a difference between not engaging in risky action and just being a fucking coward. And I have no reason to believe that he's doing it for the right reasons, because he's a fucking curator asshole.
All right, see, this is where I think that I disagree with you about the what's going on in the film. I think cowardice is more or less the only acceptable role for men in the 21st century.
Except it's not acceptable, and it's been made acceptable by men.
Well, there's a guy
We're
who does
teasing out an interesting thread here.
he doesn't do something. There's a guy who does something that isn't very cowardly, which is the guy who beats the shit out of Pattinson.
Mm-hmm.
He defends his girlfriend's honor and almost certainly ends up in prison for this. Like he beat.
Are you kidding me? He's a white guy in Boston. He's fine.
I would say that beating up the groom at a wedding is the kind of thing that gets you arrested.
I don't think the film offers us that thread.
You really think that guy doesn't get arrested?
No, I don't. I don't think there's any reason to believe
Pattinson looks like he nearly lost an eye.
Yeah, and you see people that look like that all the time. Do
Yeah,
you assume that when you see a guy that looks like that, you're like, oh, I bet the guy who did that is in jail? Like, no, I don't.
This is a rich guy. This is a guy who works at the campus museum at Harvard in a good job. This is a guy with a beautiful apartment, with a good degree, who makes a lot of money. And I just cannot imagine a scenario in which he doesn't...
Well, he's not very litigious, though.
Sure, but I mean, you don't think that somebody at the wedding called the cops?
I think I have a little bit more awareness of the sort of upscale community that they're in.
Oh, yes, because I grew up poor and Eleanor grew up rich.
No,
so.
what I'm saying is that, well, I think that the community would not have tolerated having the cops show up.
It would have been déclassé.
It would have been déclassé.
If there's one thing I believe, it is the upper middle class hewing to their line against all reason.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's possible. I mean, the film doesn't tell us one way or the
They
other.
don't tell us one way or the other. Yeah.
Say more about this, talking about acceptable or permissible masculinity in the 21st century. You feel that
I think that's what the movie's about, really.
the two primary men in this movie are Robert Pattinson and his best man.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the ones we hear from the most. You think that those two are avatars of this kind of
I think so.
acceptable expression of masculinity?
If we think about the film as being, like I was talking about before, one of these Eric Romer moral tales, and all of these people are kind of stand-ins for like generic person, right? Because we're here to discuss a social question and not necessarily to like, cheer someone on as they, go on a hero's journey, because that doesn't happen.
No. This is not a hero's journey.
No, this is a thing where, and I think that there have been a number of films that seemingly exist in the context of these, 1960s, 1970s films. A lot of them were in France. Things, Claude Chabrol and Francois Truffaut and other late period works of the French New Wave, as well as, I think that we also see in, say, for example, the films of Whit Stillman.
I saw a lot of Whit Stillman, but it was the good version of Whit Stillman.
Yeah, I liked it too. I think that there are these books and plays in the 19th century that attempt to present us with a moral quandary and then ask us to make our own judgments, right? And they depict people rising and falling based on even the 19th century, you go to the 18th century, 17th century. This is a thing in literature going back quite a ways, right? You tell a story about rich people because rich people, we can assume, are held accountable for the behavior that they exhibit in public, right?
Yeah. It's about legitimation, yeah.
There are stories like, say, for example, Vanity Fair, or, Tristram Shandy, or, Barry Lyndon, right? Where it's more about the funny, weird coincidences of a giant world that's gone mad or something, right? But if you instead you look at something like Brideshead Revisited,
Mm-hmm.
This is a scenario in which all these rich people are put in a scenario where they have to make a choice based on what is expected of them, based on their own personal desires, based on what they understand their moral obligation to be. And when they choose poorly, their lives don't work out. And that creates the conflict that drives the story forward. And so we've been seeing a lot of movies over the last couple of years, things like The Materialists.
Materialist was a bad version of this.
It's possible, you could say. Regardless of quality, I think what we're talking about is films that half exist as films to watch and half exist as films where you talk about the plot with your friends and family, and you talk about it on Twitter, and you talk about
discourse films, yeah.
Discourse films. And we are participating in the discourse of this film right now, which is about a month and a half too late. But we appreciate you putting up with this.
I just found out Heidegger is dead.
Shit. Fuck.
Yeah, so maybe we don't do Heidegger.
All right, well, that's fine.
Also, Nazi.
I think that's true. I think I want to talk about this movie in relationship to film history, right? And also discourse history, and how it offers, it's not a comedy of manners. I do agree with you. It's not a comedy of manners, but it is about manners. It is about behavior. It is about acceptable behavior. I have a tattoo on my back that says how to behave. And it's a tattoo I got many, many years ago because it is a central question in my life. And I put it on my back so I don't have to look at it that much, but I can know that it's there and remember. And I think this is a film about how to behave.
I think that's right.
And I think that Zendaya occupies a relationship to the question of how to behave in a way that really resonated with me, which was impulsive, improvisational, while also being deeply felt and thought. The thing where she's just like, let's start over again, and like was really sympathetic to me. I really got it. I feel like I really resonated with her character a lot. She made a lot of sense to me. The fact that she hid that fact for so long, and then when she exploded with it, was like, wait, why aren't you being normal about this, is deeply me. Where it's like, wait, but because I'm just used to responding to enormous events with like, oh fuck, and then like dealing with it, and it doesn't, like, the thing where he was just like reeling from it for so long. I was like, come on, dude, just get on with it. Deal with the situation. Come on, let's go. So I just thought she was like a really relatable character to me. She did nothing wrong. Alana Haim is a villain. What do you guys think?
I think Alana Haim, first of all, what a career so far for this singer who is being in all of these incredibly smart movies.
It sucks she didn't get a fun wig, though.
Fine. Next time.
Yeah.
We should wear 2 wigs next time.
2 wigs at the same time.
Women in Music Part 4.
Music Part 4.
Yeah. Women in Cinema.
Episode title.
Yes, can we actually? Yes.
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
I love that the film is constantly like presenting us with the lives of these wealthy and like fancy people, and also like projectile vomit, and
there's so much vomit. I loved it.
And there's blood everywhere, and like it's a bodily fluid film.
Oh yeah.
And I think that what we're supposed to get is that the lifestyle that they live is built entirely on this superficial like friendliness and like civilized behavior.
Boston.
And that it is very easy to scratch a little bit and get under that and get to something incredibly disgusting and unpleasant.
Well, I think what it is it's like kind of a Clive Barker thing, not only in the impulse, not in like actual real effect. Because what it is the vomit is the eruption of the real, of a capital R. It's the eruption of an actual exchange or production or creation of something real that exposes the dynamic that has always already been happening between this couple, between themselves and the city, between them, their jobs and their families and their communities. It's this, and their class. It's just this like expulsion.
A thing that they try to ignore or pretend doesn't exist.
Very Freudian.
Makes itself real in front of them. And it isn't like in a Cronenberg film, like the actual inside of the human body.
No.
It's the emotions that people acknowledge are not socially acceptable to express.
Right. Especially in their circle. It's the kind of thing where it's like, it's funny because like, I feel like I've spent so much time with like my crazy ass friends where I'm just like, yeah, crying.
Why'd you look at me?
Crying a little bit is not like a breakdown. You know what I mean? Or like yelling a little bit is not like an explosion. So, but with them, and like this is true with this like English people too, I guess, do this too, where it's like, oh, you exhibited a little bit of like activity or reactivity, and like that is equivalent to like a bomb going off. And it's like, for them it is. It's like she starts sobbing and he's just like, you know, she could stop sobbing in a few moments. You don't know. Like, let this play out a little bit, you know, give him a respite.
But there isn't really any room for anyone to have like space to be human even for a moment. They pretend that they care about each other, that they are friends in the way that we understand friends to be, which is that like people who are invested in the welfare of other people, right?
right. The way that, you know, normal people are.
I think that there's a fantasy that people have that their relationship to their friends is this like purely beautiful, positive thing, when in reality, and in this film, it's an entire economy of exchange when it comes to social capital. And there are people who want what is on your side of the fence.
Yeah. There's also like the sense you get where when Alana Haim expresses her complete contempt for Zendaya, where you get the sense that her rejection of Zendaya is worse than anything else that happens in the movie. Like, oh, your best female friend disapproving of you is like falling into a volcano.
But Zendaya is not Alana Haim's friend. She is the girlfriend of the guy who works with her fiance.
Right, but like they also seem to be very invested in cultivating the aura of the friendship that they have.
They think that they have an obligation to pursue a friendship with each other
Because of their relationships.
Because their men
Yeah.
are already friends.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do the right thing, the good thing, which is be friends with each other in order to foster a community.
Yeah. And I think what Zendaya is afraid of is that Alana Haim clearly has the social capital to simply burn everything to the ground. It doesn't really matter to her. Or if it's not social capital, it is just like a sort of recklessness that Zendaya doesn't have.
I think she's sort of like the Joker.
Yeah, she is like an emotional joker. She
Right.
is.
She's like, I don't care about any of this, which makes me the most powerful person here.
Yeah.
Because I can destroy all of it anytime I want.
What to you, Taylor, and to you, Andre? Like, to me, again, the Charlie speech, I don't know, the Charlie speech combined with the Alana Haim speech were both really brutal to watch. What was to you, like, the most, like,
Was Charlie
watching?
the best man?
No,
Charlie's
Charlie was the guy.
our pets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
He practices so long to try to do a good job with that speech, and then he gets it so wrong.
yeah. I did not feel like he really stood up for his girl, as it were.
Yeah, he did not. He fucked up.
And I felt like Miss Haim took glee in her opportunity to be vengeful for this perceived slight against her sense of goodness. It's like the I lacking the language of film criticism. Perhaps you'll chime in and be like, oh, you're trying to say this, but the real weight of the film is carried subtextually, not by what is said, but by how people react to what is said.
Yeah,
Is that
it's not even
subtext?
what's unsaid. You're right. It is the way that people behave when someone says something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the way that it opens with this potentially engagement ruining situation, and then the rising action is all them meeting with wedding vendors, right?
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this unspoken thing going on.
the replacement DJ part cracked me up.
I do want to get to that. I do want to talk about that. But it's more about, it's like they outsource the emotional intensity of the scenes to the audience.
Yes.
Because of the characters' like bourgeois obligations.
So they can't really fully
Yeah.
I completely
and so
agree.
We're left to do the reacting. We're left to see this like lack of chemistry between the two. It's dramatic irony, right? Where the audience knows something that the people on the screen don't.
And you know what it reminded me of, actually, is this thing that went viral yesterday of the comic in Toronto being like,
The guy yelling at that woman.
yeah. And he's like, the comic is heckling this woman in the audience who does not say a word the entire exchange. She's just like registering her like distaste as he suggests sexual violence against her. He says awful things about her, and he ends up looking like a fucking doofus and a piece of shit. And now he's trying to sell merch of her face on a mug. Like, it's the kind of thing that was interesting because it's like the whole success of the performative of the thing is her non-reaction. If she had said one thing during that whole interaction, it would have been ruined. But the way she maintains power in it is by being completely silent. And which is so different from, like, I think that, like, in this movie, you're right, it outsources that affect to the audience. But there is a kind of power that the bourgeois subject gains by being silent when someone is embarrassing themselves. You know? I just wanted to think about that a little bit.
I don't think that the people at the wedding had a very good time.
I don't think so either. Also, Also, like, the food didn't even look that good.
And yet they were so enthusiastic about everything up until Eleanor, you and I are married.
It's true.
Okay, so we had a wedding, right? And we tasted food for a caterer, and we visited a venue, and we, you got a dress, and I had a tuxedo, and, we did all of those things. But our version of a wedding, which was an incredible experience, was one that cost a lot less than typical wedding.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't use like a wedding venue, and we didn't have.
What do you mean? We got married at the Music Box.
Yeah, we did not use a
Oh, you
traditional
mean
wedding
like
venue.
okay,
yeah, we didn't get married in a church. We didn't have a reception at like some kind of loft space in some converted industrial building.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Well, it's what everybody does because it's such a practical, thoughtful, clearly the right move is to find a space that has the legal protection and the infrastructure to have a bunch of people in it.
Right, which is why our wedding was kind of a shit show.
Yeah, we didn't do those things, and so we didn't have the practical benefit you get from it. Like, there's a reason that people do weddings this way, right? And there's also the fantasy projection that people have about like wanting a perfect wedding. Right, which is, I think, a thing that, generally speaking, in America is assigned to women.
Yeah, and Andre, you suggested earlier today we were talking about this movie, and you were like, and I mentioned, I was like, wait, do we think that Zendaya is a bridezilla? Because I don't actually think that she is.
No, no. If anything, she feebly attempts at the beginning of the film to interject her opinion about whatever. And very quickly, gives over because I didn't get the sense that she cared about the wedding one way or the other. And neither did he.
Yeah, it was
a wedding that they seemed to not want, but they still went through with.
Well, they had obligations to their social status.
Yeah.
Their caste.
And then you see the reception and the people that they are ostensibly doing the wedding for, right?
Seem fucking miserable.
The parents and the friends and everybody. Everybody was unhappy even before everything fell apart.
Yeah, yeah. Like, her dad seemed like really not here for it, No,
these people seemed miserable, but they're more or less trapped into repeating these things over and over again, like, for all we know, when their parents got married, they also didn't want to do any of that stuff and did it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing is, there isn't even like a religious obligation.
Oh, no.
There is no, like, everything about the contemporary wedding is secular. I've been to weddings for years because I'm 42 now. I'll be 42 in about a month. And I don't know that I've ever even seen a religious figure at a wedding.
You know what it kind of reminds me of in terms of its like performative status in the original sense is the play The Balcony by Jean Genet, where it's a bunch of people playing pretend and like doing different religious rituals while a violent revolution is going on outside. So they're just like processing it by like play acting different rituals while there's like people being slaughtered. And that's kind of what it felt like.
In The Maids, you also get a sense of arbitrary, artificial action, right?
And the blacks too.
Yeah. Jean Genet liked this thing. I think that Jean Genet maybe didn't have a very high opinion of higher society in France at the beginning of the 20th century.
Yeah.
That maybe I don't want to put words in his mouth.
The Thief's Diary, read it.
And I think people have this idea of the wedding as being this, like, not just the fantasy of, oh, you get to wear a beautiful dress and all your friends come and everybody looks at you and then you get to feel special and good or whatever. But like the wedding is a kind of measurement of your ability to like wield economic and social power.
Yeah.
So
and Zendaya seems to not feel like she ever had any that she could wield successfully. So she relies on her inner resources of improvisation and being funny and being charming. So I think there's several dynamics at place in terms of social status that I'd like to call attention to. I do think it's weird and kind of cool and makes sense and contemporary about it that there seems to be like no generational issues. Like they seem to live in a world of their own. You know, like she'll talk about her, like Zendaya will talk about her past and her childhood or whatever, but it's like there's no like ongoing relationships she has with those people from that past that affect her. It's like completely separate. It's like alienated, which seems very in keeping with contemporary life, I think.
Definitely. They don't appear to be haunted by the ghosts of the past
Yes.
in any way. And even the specific content of the thorny scenario in this movie is, I'll say, contemporary,
Yeah,
right? It
yeah.
doesn't get more modern than a school shooting, right?
Yeah. Taylor, you said you wanted to talk about the DJ situation.
So, the very first moral question posed by this film is whether you should employ somebody who uses heroin in public.
Oh, this is something we haven't even touched on.
Exactly. That's why I'm bringing it up.
And out at the dinner, on their way to the dinner or whatever, where they have the shocking revelation, they notice their wedding DJ smoking heroin, which I didn't know you could do.
Oh yeah, you can do it. It's also unclear.
They
if it's actually,
eyeball it from across the street.
I'm not convinced. It's
Honestly, all we actually see is someone smoking something that's in aluminum foil. Could be freebasing cocaine, you know.
Yeah.
But the idea that this person must be chasing the dragon is, I think, an incredible assumption, which is never even corroborated.
It's also like a weird assumption to make about a DJ. Like, really? Heroin? Not your first thought wouldn't be cocaine? I don't know.
I think maybe the invocation of heroin is a thing that is supposed to, and I
Must be a bright line.
Well,
Yeah.
I brought this up earlier. It is a thing that brings us back to the 70s. And the thing about all these films that we're talking about that have lately been these moral tales that are, seemingly invented for the purposes of creating online discourse is that while they are all extraordinarily contemporary in all of the different ways in which we see how people suck, visually, they reference the films of Europe and of America in the 1970s. There's a lot of browns and earth tones. There's a lot of natural lighting. There's a lot of acting that reminds us of the kinds of performances that people like, Al Pacino and Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman.
Panic in Needle Park. Yeah.
Or, right, Kramer versus Kramer. I mean, it looks a lot like Kramer versus Kramer. It looks a lot like a lot of these films that have that particular kind of
Patina.
Yeah, that like New York in the 70s where as a kind of like stage for humanity's questions to be played out, right? Kramer versus Kramer is an example of one of these movies where, here's the facts of the situation, you the audience decide.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like what we're in the scenario of right here,
Yeah, which is what's kind of refreshing about it is it feels like so much of what like Gen Z wants is someone to go on screen and say like, Zendaya is wrong, everyone else is right, the end, but this sort of leaves us, it's actually like treating us like we're adults and actually want to, can maybe come up with a more nuanced perspective on that.
Yeah, the two ways it can go, right? On the one side, you have young people on Twitter who are talking about the pit.
Right, like it's really happening in the streets.
And they are in the jury who is getting to decide whether or not different members of the cast are going to be put to death.
It's like celebrity deathmatch, yeah.
And then the other side, which is, okay, here's an incredibly narrow and specific circumstance for these characters to find themselves in. And by being specific, we are going to give you the opportunity to connect emotionally and personally to these people. And, perhaps show them a little grace, have a little bit of sensitivity, see yourself in them. But it's completely impossible for the people who are actually consuming the work. They can't see themselves as the thing. They don't have that ability. They only see it as, well, you're showing me this because it's up to me to make a judgment.
Right. The spectator as executioner. Right.
Yeah, I think possibly there's a desire to impose a moral judgment on the culture that we consume now because, like Adorno says, like it tears at the soul that there is no like agreement that there needs to be right or wrong in the world anymore.
Well, it's also just an absolute abject terror of vulnerability.
Because everybody's lives are so precarious, and because we have such so little like faith in the good outcome of our own lives.
And it's a dog eat dog thing. It's like, well, if I can
a dog day afternoon thing.
If I can cast aspersions on you, then I can hold myself in abeyance and be safe for the moment, you know?
It's also a pervasive notion right now in our culture that like you can be your life can be ruined for thinking the wrong thoughts, whether that's actually true or not. It's a pervasive
I think about this. I've been thinking a lot about Isabel Fall lately, about what happened to her.
Right, the attack helicopter.
Yeah, and she wrote this story, and other people who were supposedly in name members of her community brought her down and basically banished her from, public life, committed social death, and it's because she dared to establish a new framework within fiction that offered commentary on our current moment, which is her job as a writer. That is her job. And she was punished for doing her job because doing a job and successfully doing it and being creative and establishing like a new framework for it is in contrary to established banal identity politics as sort of meted out by the internet.
I think that as time goes by, our lives become more virtual and less real.
Really?
I am
oh my God.
I am the very first person to ever say that.
You heard it here first, team.
Okay, so what are the consequences of that? Well, one of the consequences of that is that we take virtual things more seriously because our life in the real world matters less and less as time goes by. Right? During COVID, everybody was home, but you were still expected to work. How did you do that? You worked from home. You worked virtually, right? And so these things that used to not matter, like Zoom meetings, suddenly you could get fired if you missed a Zoom meeting or if you behaved poorly, or like Jeffrey Toobin, you happened to not notice that your camera was still on while you were jerking it.
Yeah.
Right? Like all of a sudden the virtual became consequential to people's lives.
Right, but in what extent is that a Butlerian performative, in the sense that like I still take Zoom meetings every day and they're still pointless and don't matter. Their consequences in terms of attending them and doing that, those are enforced and made and performed as if they matter, but they don't.
The fact that the reason for the meeting or event or activity is unimportant or superficial or ridiculous, like our lives are unimportant and ridiculous and artificial.
Hey, pass me that blunt, bro.
All that we've done is we've shifted the thing that sucks and is stupid and doesn't matter, that affects how we live our lives, from the real world into the virtual world. And so that happens in this film too, because Alana Haim is like, the thing that I did is less bad than the thing that you didn't do.
Well, that's also, I think, why it's called the drama. Because the drama, I think they're calling it that because they mean drama in the more colloquial sense, as opposed to like the generic formation. They mean whoever, it's like Carl Schmitt, whoever decides what is the drama decides the exception. And that's exactly what Alana Haim is doing. Is she's meeting that out.
She's seizing political power.
Yeah. And yeah, it's bullshit and everybody knows it, but she's doing it because she can.
And she's good at it, and it worked.
Yeah, it worked. It 100% worked. Yeah. I was horrified by her behavior that entire film, but it was reminding me so much of just like growing up with the world. like it's just like, that's just like how powerful people behave,
I meant to ask, when you were describing your wedding, if you had found out a week in advance that Eleanor almost did a school shooting, would your wedding have still happened?
If I didn't want to be engaged emotionally with people who have done bad things, I would be making very different choices with my life. I am a good Christian man, and I forgive. I do not judge. I have God to tell me that it is not okay to judge other people.
This was all to
I wish-
spoilers. This was to
Sometimes
set
I
up a
do
joke.
wish. Sometimes I do wish there was a visual component to this podcast because I'd love for people to see my face right now.
And I think also the somatic component of that whole bit that I was doing just now was actually kind of entertaining. The thing with the pointing and then
The gestural aspect, the gestural politics of it.
yeah, I think it was entertaining. Look,
Wait, my punchline was going to be that Eleanor could shoot up her school and not be in the top 5 most evil people from it.
It's 100% true. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
and in fact, you followed in the footsteps of a Mr. Donald Rumsfeld.
I was going to say Donald Rumsfeld, also a Tauseno.
Right.
No
now,
kidding.
Yeah,
now-
he died in Taos.
he did. He died in Taos while we were there. And
I was, don't read too much into that.
I can tell you for sure that he's dead. You went to New Trier and then at some point in your life moved to Taos, just like Donald.
Your fellow New Trevian.
Yeah. Rumsfeld, went to New Trier and then at
It's
one
just
point,
Trevian. We don't call it New Trevian, just Trevian.
and then at one point in his life, he went to Taos and then he never left. Well, he left. He left us. He left us, right? Now, you and Rumsfeld both have a kind of facility for an incredibly sophisticated 21st century kind of post-structuralism.
Sure, babe.
What you do.
Post-structure, there were 2 towers, then there were none.
Well, Rumsfeld is the creator of this system of knowledge and understanding, right? This thing
No,
about
the known unknowns, the unknown
yeah,
knowns thing
Rumsfeldian
is super
epistemology
real. No, that's
is
right.
an incredibly interesting and
People read him to
sophisticated.
shit for that, and he was right. Like, I'm sorry, but that is a real thing.
The thing about unknown knowns, right? Like things that you know but you don't
Into
know
the
that you know,
unknown.
right? Like those are the 4 categories are the unknown unknowns, right? The things you don't know, right? Which is the thing that was why he pointed out this whole structure, right? He says one of the things limiting our ability to fight in Iraq is that there are things that we don't know that we don't even know that we don't know. Because we're not experts because this is a completely alien place and we don't know what we're doing.
What I call the Twitter normative, and which is to say the right-wing norm, which is you're too stupid to know how stupid you are.
Yes, I think that the Department of Defense more or less operates on the concept, especially under Pete Hegseth.
Oh my God, he's the definitive.
Act first and then never think about it or answer anybody else's questions ever. Just do things.
Well, it's the Silicon Valley thing where it's like I wanted to break shut. I wanted to make mistakes and break stuff, and it's like okay, but you don't actually But what are you breaking, and then what are you making out of those breakage?
Yeah, no, in our lifetimes, we've seen all these institutions get destroyed and replaced with nothing. All of our values eradicated and replaced with nothing. Yeah. Our future eradicated and replaced with nothing. It's not like the world is being transformed into this new, extraordinary, futuristic.
Donna Haraway she had no idea.
It's just everything that used to be is being thrown in the trash and replaced with nothing.
Is that the cyborg?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I tried to read
Rather
that.
be a cyborg than a goddess. Yeah.
All right. So the reason that I want to talk about Rumsfeld, right, is that the question of there was a thing that you didn't know that you didn't know that you didn't know is the thing that creates the anxiety for Pattinson. He thought he knew what he didn't know.
This is the millennial male ego.
Tell us about the millennial male. I've never encountered one of these creatures.
It's this just aggressive incuriousness that they think is curiousness. They imagine that the things that they know to be true are always already going to be true, and there's nothing that can change them because they foundationalize them, and those are the things they cling to. They're not constantly editing reality. They're just like, this is what reality is, and it always will be. And anything that contradicts that is a newness and a rupture and something that wasn't there before. So whenever time something happens to them, they're like, oh shit, this is new. Meanwhile, Zendaya is like, yeah, no, I knew. I'm aware.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
that's what I mean by that.
If we can go back to George
that make sense, Taylor?
W. Bush for a little
I
bit.
think I hear what you're saying. It's sort of sorry, Andre, but sorry. There is a 21st century phenomenon, of white men finding out that other people suffer.
Yes, and it's a myopia, and sometimes it creates a crisis, and they like freak out and become either misogynists, or they become liberals, or they become leftists. None of these are what's necessary to meet the moment.
I think in our lifetime there have been probably 3 or 4 big ones, like 9/11, the 2016 election of Donald Trump, January 6th. Also,
I like how the assassinations don't count, or the attempted assassinations don't count, in my opinion.
the Charlie Kirk one. I mean, everybody.
The Charlie Kirk one counted because he was a nothing who died for nothing, and that was good. I'm talking about the attempted assassinations of the president.
Yeah. Well, people have been attempting and failing to kill pretty much every president since Reagan, right?
Oh,
Like Clinton had people with guns that tried to jump over the fence and what have you, right? But when 9/11 happened, people were talking about it as this, what they called a black swan event, right? A thing that you didn't know was a possibility, and it came out of nowhere. Okay, you know who thought it was a possibility? The fucking hijackers.
I think about that. Well, this is like my thing. Okay, so I have a thing that I've told Andre before about how I hate it when people say something is ahead of its time. Because it can't, if it's ahead of its time, it wouldn't be happening. No. It's happening and other people haven't done it yet, but it's of its time because it's happening that time.
There's the world and there's your fantasy of the world.
Yeah.
And as we get more virtual, the fantasy is more important to people than the reality. Mm-hmm. And so, like, if the fantasy is more important, do I sound all right?
No difference here.
Okay.
All right. So, if you believe that the virtual thing, the fake thing, is more important to you, then anything that actually occurs can be written off, right?
Yeah, it's like a sublimation, I guess.
And that's the only thing that I think is so crazy is that
it's the flip. It's getting flipped on her, and she's like, "But that's not. No, what I do doesn't matter."
The transgression is not what happened. The transgression is that this is a revelation that this person had something inside them, not an action in the real world, but a virtual reality inside themselves that was contradictory to presumed shared values, right?
Which is to say not shared values, but presumed that people were following her values.
She's upset partially because her cousin was the victim of a shooting and is wheelchair bound.
Whom we meet briefly in a very hilarious scene.
Yeah, and it's Baryshnikov's daughter.
Yeah.
Is the actress.
Yeah.
And
Anna Baryshnikov, I think.
I think that's right. And so, in a world where the only thing that matters is like who you are in some kind of like vague metaphysical sense rather than what you do because the real world doesn't matter, then admitting to a feeling or a desire or a thought is worse than admitting to an action that you might be guilty of.
Yeah, it's like the entirety is like your intention, which is then never enacted, is the only permanent ontology that you can hold on to, which is bizarre and very Baudrillard.
Well, because accidents happen, right? And kids do all kinds of dumb stuff. Kids are kids. Hey, come on, give them a break. But then, like, wanting something, that's real.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Desire, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, the horrible thing that Alana Haim did where she, locked some poor child in a closet, well, she was just a kid. She didn't know better. She wasn't trying to hurt anybody, right? She was... she made a foolish mistake as a child, and
The crime that Zendaya committed was believing in something.
or even just like, thinking that it would be, acceptable to herself.
And then also the crime she made was changing her mind. Because she becomes an activist afterwards, right? She becomes like an anti...
Oh, and it infuriates Alana Haim, the idea that somebody would ever be allowed to recover from having committed the grievous sin of wishing ill on other people.
Well, I don't think that's what it is. It's more the fact that she had the wherewithal to be vulnerable enough to change her mind. I think it's a fear of vulnerability. I think that she's upset that, you admit you made a mistake. If you can admit that you made a mistake, but I can't, and then you change your life after you admit to your mistake.
Then that makes you better than me?
That makes you better than me? How dare you?
So the life raft that I cling to
exactly
is the fact that you ever, even for a moment, entertained this idea means that you are some sort of subhuman monster
right.
who can never be redeemed, and everything that I should do in all of my interactions with you is to destroy you.
It's like when you remind liberals that more leftists voted for Hillary after Bernie dropped out than liberals voted for Obama after Hillary dropped out.
No, or that Trump won white women every single time he ever ran for president.
You can't bring that up because
I was drunk. I'm sorry.
Taylor and I became blood sisters and went to the polls together and voted.
Pokemon, go to the polls for Team Rocket's sake.
I think it also has to do a little bit with this sort of like capitalist realism, this pessimism about the will.
Yeah.
Not so like optimism of thought, but pessimism of the will.
It's like a weaponization of weak theology.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I've become obsessed with that guy, by the way. I got a bunch of his shit
Caputo?
in my backpack. Gennaro.
I thought his last name was Caputo. I can't remember. Whatever. Some Italian person.
Yeah, this is not a film that's really like engaged with the concept of forgiveness. I don't think Pattinson ever even really considers that he needs to forgive anyone for anything. I don't think he sees.
I don't.
He doesn't judge her. Instead, all of his like reluctance and disgust and everything is purely emotionally driven. It's all anxiety and neurosis.
It's all like masculine anxiety about himself and like the fact that he could never do anything.
Sure, and the question is not, is this person a bad person now that I have this information? It's, can I still marry this person and save face?
Can I save face? Do I still have the power over her? Do I still have, because he has all those like dreams or whatever, like visions of her like with the gun, and it's like, oh, but what if I'm not actually in control of this relationship? That's the thing. It's not actually about any of the shit that she did or wanted to do. It's, am I in control anymore? And the thing, Zendaya is like, she's Laura Dern in Jurassic Park. She's like, you never had control. None of us ever had any control. I thought we were in love, And that's what really hurts, I think, is she's like, I thought we both were like falling out of an airplane, lovers in Boston, 20-somethings. And you thought you were in control this whole time.
No, but that was the fantasy.
That's what I'm saying.
I keep mentioning in every episode of this show, I keep mentioning fantasy, right? And I think that it upsets people of our generation to imagine that they have fantasies.
Mm-hmm.
People want to believe that what they have
is a desire.
They have values and they have interests, but they don't have fantasies.
Yeah, and
they live in the real world.
But also, I think there's a little bit of a difference between desire and wish and fantasy. I think people have wishes and desires, but having a fantasy, which everybody does, because obviously we have anxiety about having that fantasy, but we all have them, right? But the anxiety over having it emerges from, again, my favorite V word, vulnerability.
I don't think that. Okay, so in that initial like, let's tell the truth about the worst thing we ever did scene.
I almost wanted us to do that on the show, but I'm not going to do it.
In that scene, there's this extraordinary vulnerability, right? That's what the concept of the game is. And Alana Haim plays along, and Pattinson doesn't.
Yeah.
The worst thing that he's ever done is all of the things that he does after this moment in the film.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, like, even if he were taking it seriously and being honest and vulnerable, it would all immediately get superseded by all of the additional horrible things that he does later on.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so in that way, it's sort of like it was impossible for him to participate in the game because he's the protagonist of this film and had to have the worst things ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
If the worst thing he ever did got revealed at the beginning of the film, then it would cut through all of the, like, narrative tension and excitement of all of the horrible things that he does in the movie.
Which is, can I just say, this script is built like a brick shithouse.
Great script.
Like, it's...
I think all of the scripts of this kind of movie that over the last couple of years have been happening, they're all really good scripts.
I don't know, man. The Materialist has a lot of...
You keep talking about The Materialist.
Because that's what this movie is most in relationship to.
No. I'm happy they're bringing up The Materialist, but I'm shocked that you're having such a negative opinion of it.
Because it was like watching this, I was like, oh, this is a good version of that. Because that movie was boring and stupid and arid and without insight.
You don't think it told us anything valuable about people?
No, it didn't at all.
Well, it definitely has a more like absurd premise.
Yeah, and it's very Woody Allen. And this one is less Woody Allen. That's why.
One thing that they have in common is that they both are sort of interested in the concept of romantic relationships as being a kind of materialism.
Yeah, and also like how romantic love is a way in which we let class be known. Like class is a way that we come to know it through love, which is kind of interesting, but also through that love relation, the class status reasserts itself and dominates the love relation. So it's like a weird, like cyclical thing in Materialist, I think.
Well, I think both films do admit or like cling to this idea that love is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in a really dark world where it seems to be insufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, love is a thing people feel, and, you know, they might have suspicion or anxiety about the reality of it, but it is real. It's just... can
be negotiated.
It's not important.
Right. And the thing that I didn't like about or didn't really relate to with the first one with The Materialist is that like Dakota Johnson is like coded as being pragmatic and realistic. I think Zendaya is just as pragmatic and realistic as Dakota Johnson is. I think that she is pragmatic in her emotional techniques she uses to get Charlie to stop freaking out, to be playful, to be humorous and fun with him, is a pragmatic technique that she deploys in order to keep her relationship afloat, in order to remind him that she loves him, remind him that their love matters.
But there is a certain distance that we are forced to keep from the Zendaya character because she isn't the main character. Like, it is ostensibly
You think
a two-hander, right? It's about these two people and their relationship with each other. Much more so than, you know, The Materialists or any of these other films, right? It is about these two people, and they're both on the poster that's behind me, and they're, you know, it's about, and that's why when they went on the junkets to promote the film, it's always them sitting next to each other, laughing and having a good time and enjoying talking about the movie. But while we do get to spend time with Zendaya, you know, when she's alone, and we get to see inside of her head and see the memories of her childhood and the nightmares and the fantasies that she has. I think that because she has to keep this sort of like collected persona in order to simply survive the catastrophe that she's put herself in, she does push the audience away a little bit in a way that Pattinson doesn't.
Well, she kind of has to because this is sort of like a subtextual thing. Well, no, it's text. She's a biracial woman. And I personally think that Alana Haim would not have treated her the way that she did if she weren't. I think that if Zendaya's character had been a white woman, Alana Haim would have been like, oh my God, that must have been so hard. You know?
There's definitely something, even if it doesn't explicitly tell us, that puts Zendaya closest to outside the circle.
Yeah, the closest
of all the
to
characters
the
that we're
audience.
introduced to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as whether we are meant to feel these things along with her, be close to her, as Andre put it, I can't tell, because not only is she the outsider from the racialized perspective, perhaps from the class perspective as well, it's not really spelled out for us. She does appear to work at a office job, whatever that means. I have no clue. She's also the one who's on trial, right?
Yeah.
For the reprehensibility of the things that she almost did. And so we can't, like, she is the subject. She is the object of judgment for the film and therefore for the audience as well.
I also think it's interesting that she is seen as, like, Charlie depicts her as like this kind of manic pixie dream girl in some ways, and the way that she's like I said before, that she's improvisational and playful, but he's the one who's constantly reverting to artistic references in order to make sense of their moment. She's dealing with the moment in reality, and he's always like, oh, this is like the Louis Malle film, or, oh, I'm obsessed with this artwork in my office now. Like, he's the one who's always like receding to like other examples that are safe for him to navigate, that aren't actually the emotional reality and intimacy and nowness of the moment that he's having with his fiance.
As a curator at a museum, you would expect
He's
him...
barely human, let's be real.
You would expect him to have a certain relationship to history and to art. Right?
I understand that. I'm just saying the way that works narratively.
No. I think also that, like, deploying references to history and art is one of the ways in which class operates in the film.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's very much like, oh, which is frustrating in some ways, I think.
Like, one of the class markers of the film is simply that Zendaya grew up in a house that had a gun in it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And
he's British, so.
like, really the crime that she committed was not thinking about committing a shooting. It was that she escaped her class origin. That was the thing that no one can ever forgive her for doing. And, like, revealing facts about, like, the school shooting phenomenon, regardless of whether or not the shooters are, and they are often wealthy people, wealthy men, right? Wealthy young men.
Elliot Rodger.
Elliot Rodger's the one that immediately springs to mind. Even
Dylan and Eric.
The Virginia Tech shooter was, didn't come from poverty. But I think that there is this sort of unspoken assumption, especially among the wealthy, that the reason they don't associate with the poor is that the poor are violent. And revealing that she has this violence inside of her, even if she never did anything about it, is the thing that...
It's the threat enough, yeah.
Right. Alana Haim comes from money, and therefore doesn't need to prove that she's not violent, even though she did a violent thing to a child. Because violence is not a thing that you need to worry about when it comes to rich people. Rich people associate with each other. You're never going to convince a rich person to stop associating with rich people. It's about this idea that when you have a poor person who makes it out, right? You're Redmond Barry, right? That really what they have inside of them is the blood. And the blood will out. Right? The fact that they were born in poverty means that they are shit, and they will be shit until the day they die. And any time they ever reveal that they had something inside of them that would be evidence of any of the characteristics that rich people assign to the poor, means that you have betrayed the open-mindedness and trust that these rich people have laid upon
Afforded
you,
yeah.
with their grace, with their generosity,
Magnanimity?
magnanimity.
Magnanimity. There we go. Thank you.
That's exactly the word that I should have thought of. Yes. And so it doesn't matter that she didn't do it, because if she had done it, she'd be dead, and this conversation would
Right, this wouldn't even be happening.
Like, nobody's ever gotten away with a mass shooting. It's impossible. So the fact that she didn't do it means that she committed the actual crime, which was infiltrating the rich.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we were supposed to have all of these systems in place to prevent exactly this sort of thing from happening. Why do we even have places like Harvard and other gatekeeping institutions that, you know, are supposed to make it impossible for poor people to get ahead in the world? Why do we even have them when someone like this can marry someone like that?
I think that's the movie right there. I think
Yeah.
I like the way that you framed that.
I think that's exactly right.
Wait, I had one. I
Please.
actually never got to talk about the DJ part.
Oh,
that
yeah.
I
Please. Oh, my
wanted
God.
to.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a moral question, which is relevant to me as a moral person.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
my imperative as a moral person is to do and know the moral thing. And so
And to impart that wisdom. Yeah.
well, yes. And so I'm going to commit Zendaya's sin of showing my my inner flaws, my inner.
I will not be doing that.
Nor have you. I have a complicated relationship with not heroin, but people who do heroin,
Okay.
and whether I
Cool
should
people.
be their friend or not. Basically, I had a situation coming up 3 years or so ago now, where I, in a conversation, took a very anti-heroin stance. Felt matter of fact to me.
You said, no, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
not going to do heroin.
I said, basically, I was like, yeah, if you guys started doing heroin right now, I would leave.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody got so mad at me. And at first it didn't, 2 and 2 didn't click for me at the time. I was just like, I wonder why that didn't go over so well. And now I'm like,
The dare came out.
Oh, duh, right, obviously. And I guess I'm just like, I'm asking myself, like, was I in the wrong there? Should I have been like, nah, everywhere within 6 feet of me is a safe use site? Like, and is it okay? To me, it's not a drugs thing. I imbibe in certain substances legal in some places and not legal in others. I've imbibed in substances that are not legal anywhere. To me, there is no like social component to heroin use.
See, okay, so this is the thing. I think that there are people who are into drugs because as a social thing, as a sociality,
Yeah.
and like it's like a communicative thing. I don't see my relationship to substances is as an antisocial thing. Because
Ooh.
I don't like my own thoughts. I get in my own head. So I see like downers are like my favorite. Because I'm like, okay, it's shutting up now, you know? So I think that's what the disconnect was. It was not so much actually about heroin itself. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, they go from that to drinking, and then the drinking is so much more destructive
Yeah.
than the heroin was for the DJ. The DJ shows up to the wedding and is ready to
that's the
go.
thing that's so funny is the DJ was fine. Like they could have just like let it go and then yeah. But I love who was the comedian that came up as the replacement DJ?
Oh, it was the guy,
He's so
Rajat, and what's his name?
The other guy in that.
Yeah,
duo.
the other guy. Who knows?
Whatever.
Jeremy?
We'll never know.
Jeremy Levin? Is that his name?
It was really funny. But yeah, no, I think that's what it was. It was just like, oh, what are we doing drugs for and why? And that yours, you came across a line.
Jeremy Levick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed to me like, to me it was like, well, that doesn't sound very fun.
Yeah.
And maybe to them it was like, oh, you're judging me, and maybe maybe I was. I don't know. I'm not in a position where I can say, oh, actually, I wasn't doing something wrong, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you think that would happen again, like now?
Do I think that what would happen again?
Like, if someone were to be like, I'm going to do heroin right now, would you stay or would you leave?
I probably wouldn't hang out still. No.
See, to me, it would
No.
depend on how they phrased it. If they said, hey, I'm going to chase the dragon, I would be hard out for me. They'd be like, hey, I got some fentanyl. It's very much like the kind you got when you had your C-section. I'd be like, I'm game. That sounds great.
Well, and the means of the means of taking it is relevant too, I suppose. If I were if people just pulled out a random powder and started snorting it, I would probably notice and be like, I'm not going to ask questions about that because I don't want to know.
I'm so sorry.
Whereas as soon as the spoons and the lighters come out,
Oh,
I'm probably going to be like, wait a second.
so
Okay, but
is it the accoutrement?
Can we talk specifically here? Like, why is drug use abject in the 21st century? I am not a big drug user. I do, I have a little bit of weed at night before I go to bed. But there are people who are in very prominent public positions doing, ketamine
Oh my
and
God.
cocaine and, like Kash Patel getting drunk every single weekend at some tiki bar in Washington, D.C. Like, the whole idea that there used to be this like interdiction against substance abuse in public life where like Robert Mitchum, his whole career was nearly destroyed because he got arrested for possession of a joint in the 50s.
I would like to shout out the book Blitzed, Drugs in Nazi Germany by Norman Ohler. It's very much about the relationship between drug use, particularly uppers, amongst fascists as like not a coping mechanism because they don't really need to cope, but as more like an agentive boost to commit the violence they need to commit.
Well, but if nothing is forbidden and everything is permitted, then if you're not doing drugs, it's because you're square, right? And
Do you think these guys worry about being square? I guess, I don't know.
well, in the extent to which like the entire operation of the apparatus is a social interaction.
I see what you're saying. It's like, oh my God.
You
It's
don't
like,
want to be a bad hang when you're part of the like inner circle of the fascist dictatorship.
Well,
you need these people to like you.
they also have an obsession, or at least a fascination, with the aesthetics of being cool. Like there's that picture, that avatar that is it Ian Miles Chong he uses, and it's of him in like some nightclub, and he's of course completely alone, but he's like smoking a cigar, and it's like, you look more pathetic than if you just took a picture of yourself like in a bathroom mirror. You know what I mean? Like it's so like, that's compensatory. Like that's nothing. Like that's humiliating to me.
Well, I think that, world's bad.
Mhm.
Life is bad.
Mhm.
Everybody's miserable.
Yes.
Not hard to imagine that, people are interested in an alternative to feeling normal in a world like the one we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And especially considering, like I said before, the real world doesn't count. Only the virtual world counts. Only the world in our minds. Only the world on the page. Only the world in the computer. Which means that your body doesn't count, right?
Except it does, because
image of your body counts,
oh, I see. So this is where like the GLP-1s come in.
right? The virtual
These girls, by the way, never mind.
the
They
virtual
love
reality
injecting things.
of the body matters. It's probably the reason for what we call Republican woman makeup,
Yeah.
right? Which is that everything that matters is exclusively a sign, and the extent to which the sign exists is the extent to which it matters. So the more makeup you put on, the more you're invested, the more you're revealing how on board with the program you are. right? If you can make yourself into a visual clown in order to, like accept the authority of the person at the top, if you can wear shoes that don't fit every single day, and if you can prove that you're willing to go along with the aesthetic reality that is being imposed upon you, then anything going on inside of your body doesn't count. So you might as well do every drug you can get your hands on.
I watched a really funny video the other day of Trixie Mattel, and she was reacting to these Republican girls who are talking about how they're so embarrassed about how they used to put on their makeup when they were younger. And they're like, oh, it was so embarrassing. Like, my dad had to, like, take me aside and be like, hey, you look like a raccoon. And Trixie Mattel's like, hold the phone. Your dad had to clock you for you to look like, how bad was this that your father had to take you aside and tell you that your makeup is bad? Like, and it's just like, I don't know, that to me, like, that's a play. I want to see a play of like a dad pulling his daughter aside to tell her that her makeup is wrong in like Oklahoma. Like, I don't know, it cracked me up. That was really funny.
No daughter of mine is leaving the house looking busted.
I know, it was so funny. I loved it.
I think right now, the conservative attitude is, I need to have an opinion about aesthetics.
Right, and AI is not doing the trick.
Like, when I was a kid in the South, having anything to say about how things looked or sounded meant you were gay. Mm-hmm. And now, it's the only thing anybody wants to talk about in the right. Yeah. Is just aesthetics.
Mm-hmm. That's all they can talk about, because what they're doing otherwise is so reprehensible.
Well, yeah, they don't have access to the world of ideas because their ideas are bad and their actions are bad. So all that they have left is aesthetics.
You know what doesn't have aesthetics in this kind of like, or at this level of power? The Tao Te Ching.
Yes, and we're going to be putting out a brand new episode on Monday. Sorry that this one came out a little late, but we will attempt to do our very best to put out episodes each week. And now this episode was a bit of a surprise, right, Eleanor? Like, we ended up doing an episode about a movie instead of another moral philosophical text.
This is still a moral philosophical text.
I agree, and I think that in general,
would it be ethical to break up with Zendaya? Answer:
no.
Not.
Well, it's definitely not smart.
Yeah,
because she got that thing on her.
It's true.
Don't want to make her angry.
No, that was Hunter Schafer. Confused with her fictional girlfriend. I don't make jokes like that. I don't like.
It was weird. I was like just surprised that you made it.
No,
yeah,
that's not me.
Yeah,
that's not me.
I did stop watching the most recent episode of Euphoria, the one that's about the wedding, because it opens with this like montage about Hunter Schafer's character and like how she became a sugar baby, and I just I couldn't stand the way that they were treating this character, and it just didn't appeal to me anymore. And I don't think I'm going to watch the show any longer.
Yeah. That makes sense. Many are joining you in this decision.
Yeah. Euphoria really does seem like what it wants to be is the TV show version of the thing that we're talking about, the moral tale, right? It's a question of...
Except it's nihilistic.
Well, yeah, and that's why that doesn't work, and it just becomes spectacle and adventure. Like, in the new season, Zendaya is like a drug mule.
Yeah.
And, it's fun watching 2 brand new episodes of Breaking Bad in 2026, but it has nothing to do with what I was watching the show for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, so we are going to broaden the scope of the show a little bit and approach not just philosophical texts, though we will go back to them. But you had some wonderful ideas about some upcoming episodes, Eleanor. And they seem really exciting to me.
Yeah, I want to keep them a little bit in advance, so I don't want to promise the order of them. But we're going to be talking about Tao Te Ching. We're going to be talking about more explicitly religious texts like the Bhagavad Gita. What else? We'll be talking about...
We do have Andrei Tarkovsky's Sculpting in Time coming up.
Sculpting in Time. This is really what it's emerging to be, is a sort of aesthetics and morality podcast. And that's what I think we're going to center on each week. And I love you all.
Bye.